So ladies and gentlemen, put it together for Roger Craik! Oh! God. I tried.
That's all we can ask, Nick.
Yeah.
I want to thank Nick for that, and partially for that, and to Steve and to the barman also for combining to put in my hand, or near my hand, a Sam Adams, which transforms a potentially bad reading into a certainly dreadful one. I'm going to read a series of poems from a very, very short book, Those Years. It's written from the point of view of a speaker. Speaker note, which means it could be fictitious. Fictitious as most of my introduction has been, I think. It's written about a speaker who's involved with a married woman, and the poems follow a kind of sequence. Alone on Thanksgiving morning. On the day that all the world had died, standing on my front doorstep with coffee in the dark blue mug I'd bought in Hartford at some wordy conference, I idly pressed my bell and caught, in that ding-dong hackneyed chime, the sound that suddenly meant you, the one you must each time have faintly heard through wood, before the hurtling urgency of me inside, summoned by banality that I alone can recognize as blasphemously you, uniquely you, so freshly, newly you each time, bringing your unmeasurable gift of yourself, which has me capering, while in my living room my samovar waltzes my candlesticks dizzy, and on the floor my Turkish carpet undulates like some exotic deep-sea ray. And there I'd be, in one great sweep, all fingers fumbling off your wedding ring, and smoothing with my palms your long black coat away to hang it up among the jingling, uncooperative triangles of wire, and kissing every nearest bit of you, no matter what, and helter-skelter tumbling out my questions, telling you all the things that I presumed of interest in my dreary day so far, until you came and pressed the bell and made me happy then. Alone, of course, again and again I press my bell, and every time, although it's not, although my reason tells me that it's not, it's you, it's always, always you. Buoyed up by self-confidence, the speaker, not the poet necessarily, writes a poem to the woman's husband, poem for him. Although he doesn't know it, these days are the last of his marriage. Perhaps he's reading now, on his side of the bed, beneath his lamp, while you peruse the book of myths my father bought second-hand in England 20 years ago. The name is written in the front, the date is written in the front in fountain pen. I've hated him, or rather I should say the thought of him, for close on 15 months. But on this evening, with late summer rain drumming warm against the windows of my house that gives upon the lake, I ask myself if it's indulgence, now you say your future's mine, that now it's him. Him whose pain at once seems real, I think of as he turns to sleep, toward you still, your face turned to the wall, and hopes tomorrow you'll be once again, as once you were to him. And suddenly, as thought folds darkly into thought, I realize how much, this moment, now, over a bottle, or maybe two, of red wine in some cafe that he'd choose, I'd like to talk with him, just him, about Stravinsky, Brendan Behan, the price of birdseed by the pound. Anything.
Steve.
Don't mind, man. Not mind.
Just so we can see your face.
I want to see you.
It's good.
Matters begin to fray upon the speaker. Friday, 10:22 p.m. 6 inches long, your tiny silver phone lies, switched off by you, unringing in your purse. I muse of wires by headlamp unpierced roads, of satellites that thread the stars, and all that atmospheric other people dark. As once again, adrift, alone, I dial the number I know better than my own, to leave a few more tiny words of love in vain. The speaker sees the relationship deteriorating, sadly. Afterwards I pulled up one blue sheet above us both. It made a cave, and there we lay. The blue light that we made was ours alone. I told you then how many caves, more than the number of our days, were ours to have in London, Venice, Amsterdam, but most of all in this Ohio town where we began. I think that you believed me then. Perhaps you might have cried, perhaps you did, encaverned there, before returning to the other man you told yourself you loved. Now the days are emptying into years where you will live alone with him, and I perhaps with others, now and then, where sheets are simply sheets to lie beneath, but never make into a cave. Speaker becomes joyously and painfully irritated. Weekend. Waving rather cheerfully, you drive away again and leave me staring at the altered houses on the other side. If I were blockish, which I'm not, or predictable like him you're driving to, this minute, now, I'd call them symbols of a man abandoned, probably for good. But to hell with that and everything. 2 streets away at most, and that means now you're reaching in your purse to cylinder the brassy, mawkish curtain ring of love back around your finger, naked for the last 2 hours. There follows 60 hours or more of unadulterated him. What skepticism in me roughshods overrides the promise that you made, and mean, and never waver from. Always when you say you'll phone, you phone. And yet it's him more than ever, through the minutes, hours, and days that others spend the week in looking forward to, whereas I wake up at 10 to 4 and think of you who make all love songs suddenly make sense, breathing just a foot away, or less, beneath a single sheet, from him who's never had a single word in print, throughout whose veins there do not thrum the on-the-rampage English, French, and Jewish bloods making me exceptional. Where the hell's his fellowship from Yale, the flaccid milk and water man, or rather boy, this Scooby-Doo of academe who snores and frets beside you in his underpants? What sophistry on earth of yours can ever make him me? I strive to think of us a part of me, continuing to write, to muddle on, to think from time to time of you, living through the arid, wasting years to come, and every time I fail. Is it pleasure, then, this jealousy that seems, no, is so real? Last lines, except they're not. Here is where I live with him. Or so you told yourself however many years ago. And when you slowly fell away from love, you pressed your life into your college town, just as a child who has a softening balloon clutches it into newer, smaller shapes. Against this way you've told yourself to be, no truths, no words, no tears of mine prevail. Everything of me will soon be gone, including all our loving afternoons, our years unlived to come. Going west. That winter, 4 years after your marriage broke down in all but name to you was everything, and you were dithering still, unable to divorce or even to discuss divorce, but marvelling instead at each succeeding aperçu for months. Yes, months on end for what it meant, for what it told you knew about yourself, while all the while your 30s trickled by in talk. Beside myself, at last, I one day flung my car upon the freeway, whose gigantic sweep could bear me unencumbered clear along the world's circumference across America, away from you. As on either side the black, uninteresting sticks of trees staked past, and thin-blown cloths of fields at their own pace unhurriedly, and cars and semis going twice as fast the other way, beyond the median rail ridged grey as migraine in a state-owned no-man's land, I, stiff-armed at 10 to 2, was thinking everything and nothing all at once, when to my right my eyeballs snagged a something, perpendicular, dark, and hooked. I could not turn to look, but over 90 miles against the snow, its image staked itself, the question of itself, across my retinas. A gentleman's umbrella, all the air wrung out of it, absurd as the thrust that thrust it there, outre-orthodox into the boondock soil that froze around it, who knows when. Forgetfulness, was it? Or an argument? Or even a bet how long it would stay upright, as if abandoned by some blue-sky businessman on an off-colour day on entirely the wrong continent, truant from a painting by Magritte? Or was it hat-standard there by some John Steed, almost half a century after his hour, heading west through Ashtabula, Painesville, Mentor-on-the-Lake, indulging in a final freak of Englishness? 2 hours at least I pondered this, skirting Cleveland's eastern suburbs, bearing south. I even thought to write about it too. A furled umbrella rigid in the earth, the strange beginnings of forgetting you. As sometimes happens in these situations, speaker disillusionedly takes up with someone else poems called Ebb. Afterwards, I hold her pudgy hand. This is not love. This does not pass for love. Through the open door, television laughs and yelps and claps. You did not act. I clutch her pudgy hand. Lust and all its urgent traffic gone. Lust and all its urgent traffic gone, and unimaginable now. I watch the daylight fading on the wall beyond her roundish arm, and thinly start to dream. I'm 80 headlamp glaring miles from home, where, side by side, the 2 decanters stand that used to be my grandparents', now mine. I'd like to pour myself a sherry now, from one of them, the one that holds the dry, and feel the stopple's imperfectly fitting grind. Bed was early in those days. I never thought, as I do now, embattled all I have to do about the day to come. From time to time, if wakeful, I would hear my grandparents, too old for love, but loving still, kiss twice outside my bedroom door. They slept in different rooms because they snore. But that was long ago, and they are gone. Beyond her arm, the walls grown dark. Your last letter. When your last letter came, at last it came, not as you said it would, by hand, in my mailbox. Your nerve, I thought, was not equal to that, but in the trusty US mail. I read it twice, the usual catalogue of blame to obviate 2 years known dithering, placating me and him as well. It was, I also thought, a letter to yourself. Hell. I crumpled it, lobbed it at the usual place. And yet, it was the height of summer. Outside a mower started up. And supine on my couch I lay and heard the birds and the electric mower. The electric mower and the birds. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Bring any Sophia pipes? Bring any Sophia pipes?
No, just those. Thank you, Nick.
I'll run home.
Thank you, Roger. Yeah, I forgot in my exhausted state. There you go. To mention that Roger teaches at Kent State University Ashtabula campus. I think he teaches English, French, English, French, English, French. No, English, French. Something like that. All right, give it up for Roger Craik. All right, so now is the time for